Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Fry, and welcome to the Space Between podcast episode number 4. Today, I have the great privilege of speaking with Bobbie.
I'm Bobbie Herron.
You got it, buddy.
The brilliance of this understanding is to share in our infinite possibilities and to point you back to your innate well-being. We already see you as well. We know that you're not broken. This understanding unleashes profound inner freedom that is sustainable and life-changing. Please consider buying Bobbie's book. I'll have links in the description below. Also, if you're struggling or suffering, please consider working with one of the coaches on my YouTube channel. We are at your service because we truly never know how we're going to show up, and life is a dance. At the end of this podcast are some funny deleted scenes. Please enjoy.
Well, I'm going to pretend it's just the two of us talking, and I'll try to keep it clean.
Look at that. Discover the Joy of Seeing by Sketching is the title of her new book. A published author and artist, Bobbie Herron has been making up stories and creating pictures for as far back as she can remember. She enjoys plein-air sketching, which is a 19th century style of painting outdoors. She enjoys doing this alone and in groups and creating frame-worthy watercolors in her loft studio in Concord, New Hampshire. Following a non-traditional educational path, she graduated from Lesley University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, with a BA in studio art and women's studies. She continues building community and exploring watercolor and sketching by participating in classes with others as often as possible. In addition to making her own artwork, Bobbie has shared her enthusiasm for creative expression with at-risk youth, veterans, and seniors. She writes about her love of words and watercolor on her blog at aloftwithinspiration.com. Some of the reviews of her book are fascinating. The first one reads, "The book was written in a very readable, conversational tone that encourages the reader to begin looking at the world with new eyes." Another one states, "In the opening chapter of this delightful book, author Bobbie Herron makes a promise. You might be on the verge of falling in love with looking, with seeing, with sketching. She delivers on that promise, and her guidebook is the matchmaker." This person writes, "I am an artist, and this book has opened my eyes to things I have long forgotten." Another one claims, "Am I an artist? No, but that's not the point. This book is perfect for people like me who are looking for a new perspective." And finally, for now, "A beautifully simple book reminds you to open your eyes to what is in front of you rather than getting caught up in the task trivial details." Thank you so much for being here, Bobbie. It's such a great honor. It's a pleasure. I'm so excited that you're here because little do you know, little do I know, little do you know, we have a lot in common. So thank you so much for being here.
Great. Oh, thank you. I'm really looking forward to this. I love it when you find an old friend is a like-minded person in whole other areas.
You know, and that's really fascinating because you and I are in these community calls with Amy Johnson. There was just something about you that really resonated with me, and I didn't know what it was. And yet it was like, you know what? I'm going to contact her some way, somehow. And it took time. You know, it's like you gave me, it was on a call, and I remember like chatting and connecting with you and like, you secretly pass a note to me? What's your email address? And you sent it to me.
And then I lost it.
Finally, there was this connection, and I was like, yes, finally. And still not really knowing. I knew that you wrote a book. I had no idea really what the book was about. And then once I found out about the book, which is called Look at That. Discover the Joy of Seeing by Sketching. When I realized that this had something to do with art and sketching, my mind exploded, because if you only knew the depth of my sketching, my whole life has been
Hold on a second.
Sketchbooks. I have boxes and boxes of sketchbooks.
Me too.
I was just like blown away by the fact that that was, the concept behind your book. And so
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Please share with us about the
Oh.
book, about anything you want to share.
Oh my goodness. Well, seriously, isn't the problem always where to start? I find like when in the groups that you and I have been hanging out in, responding to other people's popcorn is so easy. And starting, as you well know, with a blank white sheet of paper is, no idea where to go. But it's just, the book actually came as the result. I was teaching a class here in town. I have, it's impossible for me to ever cut to the chase. I wanted to take a particular kind of art class. And I live in a, relatively small city next to another relatively slightly larger small city. And I thought, well, there's got to be something like in this area that would work. And I looked through everything that was available and I was like, oh, that's exactly what I don't want to do, don't want to do, don't want to do, don't. How could I pay tuition money to help increase my self-consciousness and my fear, doubt, and insecurity? And oh, good grief. It was just everything was a technique rabbit hole. And I've already been there. I've done that movie and I quit. I didn't. So anyway, I was like harumph because there wasn't going to be a class I could find. But what I was looking for basically was community of like-minded people who are aiming in the same direction artistically. So, just a little coffee club really wasn't going to cut it. I wanted, people that were interested in art who maybe took art seriously, but they didn't take themselves too seriously. And so anyway, I was sitting around minding my own business. I don't know what I was doing, probably washing dishes. And this voice, which you and I know is wisdom,
Came to me and said, well, you could teach it.
And I thought, well, yeah, I could do that, I suppose. So I thought for a little bit and I cobbled together a very short course description. And I called the local art school and introduced myself, and I explained to the director what I had in mind. And he was polite and he listened and said, oh, well, that sounds great. I think that would actually be better suited to this other place down the road, which was, I am a snob, so let's just not try to hide that. It was, how in bookstores, arts and crafts are in separate places. This was really more of a craft store where they would probably sell adult coloring books. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but, and they would do all kinds of really cool things that was not at all. So anyway, I knew I was in the right room. So anyway, this delightful man, Ryan, said, I think it'd be better off if you contacted this place down the road. And I don't know what, I was definitely in the zone. I said, oh my goodness, that is so interesting. Ryan, that just proves I didn't actually explain it well enough. So anyway, what I want to do with you, and that is so not like me, but I wasn't going to let him off the hook because I knew it was a good fit. And I knew the only thing missing was the awareness that sketchbook art is an art form, like oils and acrylics are different. Sketchbook art and loose paper art are different with a different purpose, with a whole different spirit. So anyway, I ended up teaching that course for a few years. But then because of some difficulties that I had, I could no longer teach. And it dawned on me one day that, all the work that I put into teaching for 3 years and all those lesson plans that got polished every single time I did them, those are going to die on my hard drive. Like, what the heck? So I decided Actually, nothing to do with the pandemic, really, but coincidentally, it was in 2020. I was already retired, and I thought, well, I could probably just take those lesson plans, put them together into a booklet, and I'll photocopy them at Staples. Yeah. And then I realized that my lesson plan really wasn't, it was less than the Cliff Notes, because teaching is a stand-up dog and pony show, and you got to keep people engaged and all that. So I had to fluff it out. And then I had to add illustrations, because I couldn't just show them my sketchbook I had. And then I realized, well, I got to figure out, what do I need to do to learn how to self-publish? Because I might as well make this available to people on Amazon. It was like, there never was a plan. It was, that's what you know so well, that moment to moment openness to the next bright idea that comes along, and you throw out half of them and the other half are nuggets of gold. So anyway, that's how it happened. And I started, I think, I was washing dishes. I got the initial idea July 1st to cobble together something that already existed. But then it became much more than that. And I published November 14th, I think. So it was pretty quick turnaround. And the hardest part was, my goal initially was to have it be 50 pages or less. And it's 72 pages. And the hardest part was keeping it short, because there are, as I say in the book, there are some really clear things that I think are innocent deal breakers for an awful lot of beginning artists. And the number one being the deluge of details. The author is so excited, they give them too much information. So I had to keep going. No, that's a rabbit hole. No, don't tell them about that. And really, in the bookstores, it's filed under art instruction, but there's not a lot of art instruction, really. It's more, you having fun yet?
You having fun yet?
I just say that throughout the book over and over again. Are you having fun? Or are you taking this real seriously? And I've been super pleased with the results, but I still am surprised, because it's kind of like with the 3 principles. There are people that have been in it forever and ever and ever, and they learn from a fresh perspective. And there are people who don't know anything about it, and they can learn from a fresh perspective. So I've had very accomplished artists and people who are terrified of sketching both give me good feedback. So, and it's funny, because a few people you and I know have said the book has the 3 principles, and it's mostly just, once you're on to the fact that, boy, I make up a lot of stuff to scare myself, don't I? And then you just dismiss it. There's nothing to figure out. Oh, there I go, making stuff up again.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And do me a favor, will you,
Yeah.
Bobbie, will you just hold the
Yes.
book up for just a few seconds? There we go. So it's Look at That, Discover the Joy of Seeing by Sketching. I love the title. I just love it so much, because there's so much, I'm feeling like there's so much into Look at That. There's the beauty of the curiosity in Look at That. There's the childlike Look at That. There's the awe of Look at That. There's this discovery. There's exploration. There's building and creating. There's just so much in those 3 simple words. So you wrote on there, discover the joy of seeing by sketching. And what are we seeing? I feel like I could answer it, but I don't want to answer it. So
Yeah, I'll give you the giveaway here. It's
Top of page 9.
Top of page 9.
top of page 9. What if the marks that appeared on the pages of your sketchbook were the side effect of your sketching time rather than the purpose? What if you shifted your focus to pleasure rather than results? What if you took half an hour simply to sit outside, looking around, drinking in the sights and sounds and smells of your surroundings, and at the end of your session, you looked down and saw that somehow interesting marks appeared on the page as well. That is where I want to lead you, and this book will show you the way. So I really think I've more than once, and I bet you've done it too, more than once, I've used my sketchbook as almost like a decoy. So it looks like I'm doing something. I have my sketchbook open, I have my pen in my hand, but the truth of the matter is I just want to look around. I just want to slow down. You know, like it's like I always picture an oak leaf falling to the ground really slowly. I just want to slow down and look around and look around. And one thing I talk about in the book is when you do a double take, when you're looking around and then you look back, not using your brain at all, it's just something caught your eye.
Bam.
That's your subject matter. It's such a, you don't have to figure it out because your body will tell you, "Ooh, what's that over there?" You know, something will catch you, and then you say thank you by sketching it or just looking at it. So anyway, the book is very much about discover the joy of seeing, because a lot of people with 20/20 vision have no idea what a gorgeous planet we live on. It's just, I mean, I have drawn, I'm not kidding, I've drawn, I did a drawing a long time ago in my sketchbook and I posted it on Facebook, and I didn't put any caption, but seriously, it looked like the Grand Canyon with something really interesting down in the bottom that was a little more orange than everything else that was a little bit gray. And somebody said, I mean, I didn't realize that's what it looked like, but somebody said, "Is that the Grand Canyon?" And I said, "Well, actually, it's a pothole in a parking lot nearby that had a cigarette butt in it. And the cigarette butt was, the filter was the little bit of orange."
Oh my gosh.
The texture of this pothole was like, "Oh, look at that." Like,
Is that not incredible or what?
dead leaves in a gutter after a rainstorm. Gorgeous.
I
I'm I'm
love that
prejudiced.
so much.
I
No,
think
no, no.
eyesight is it. I like all 5 of my senses, but I have a crush on my eyesight. I just love it.
Incredible. I like the word see, and I like the word see. So I like the word that we see something. Then I also like the word the ocean, the sea. I think they're so interesting together that we can see something so small, or we can see something so vast. The ocean is ginormous, and it's amazing how much is in our ocean, and then to think of that we're just one little tiny planet in a sea of trillions of planets. So it's fascinating. But I'm with you. There's so much on this planet. The possibilities of what shows up on our sketchbooks is just incredible. It's incredible. I've been around people, family members who would say, "Dave, I can't draw." For one, I don't believe you for a second, because I know for a fact that I can teach anyone to draw, and I don't even have to teach them to draw. They already know how to draw because they've written a letter at one
There
point
you
in their
go.
life. They drew a triangle when they made an A. I mean, it's like, to say
Yeah.
you can't draw is such a shame to hear
Yeah.
those words, come out of people's mouths. It's like, you've probably been drawing your entire life. You just have a
But you
structure of some
you
sort.
can't see through the chatter in your head. That's the only thing in the way between your eye and your hand, is the chatter in your head that goes, "Oh my God, that's wrong." That's the only barrier, because the truth of the matter is, when you're drawing from observation, that actually, no matter how bad your skills are, that actually makes a whole lot more sense than abstract symbols that mean nothing and that we call the alphabet. But whether you use handwriting or print or cursive or whatever, we've been drawing symbols since we were forced to learn how to do so when we were little kids. And now you can actually cheat and instead look at something and draw it the way it looks, instead of the letter Q. Like, what does that mean? Nothing. But, Yeah, so a lot of the book is just inviting, not telling anybody anything, but inviting them to go outside and play. And go outside can mean go to the living room, it doesn't matter. Go outside and play. And what I do in the book is we just use pens, really. We use pens a lot to just open your sketchbook and write your name in it, and then write this on pages 2 and 3 and 4. And so anyway, and then you're reading along in the book, and it's like, so you're on page 12 of your sketchbook. How do you feel? Because you just help people, as you do with your coaching. You help people to get out of their own way. Nothing's missing. They just have a little bit of static that they don't actually need, but they can't figure out where the knob is to turn it off. So you just say, well, I think it's over there.
So
Go ahead.
you may be the first one out of these podcasts to mention the word 3 principles.
Oh, really?
Would you like to share what you know
Yeah.
and what you feel in your heart from the 3 principles, and perhaps how it relates to this amazing book?
Oh, well, the I the 3 principles are in my bone marrow now, but of course I have to reword everything because that's what I do. And to me, is the 3 principles are not just me, but all human beings. I make stuff up, I buy some of it, and there's an automatic reset button, and that's it. That is it. And once I make stuff up, this thing is always firing electricity. And I'm one of those lucky people that has vivid dreams frequently throughout the night, every single night of the last at least 20 years. I just, my mind is going all the time. I don't feel like I have a busy mind, but I have a very visually active mind. So I love images. So anyway, I make stuff up all the time. I believe some of it because, of course, a lot of it's interpretive. Like, well, what did she mean by looking at me that way? When the bottom line is what she meant is she has a stomach ache, and sweetheart, it's nothing to do with you. So anyway, the real 3 principles, as spoken by the wonderful Sydney Banks, who had an awakening experience in 1973 that he didn't ask for, he was not looking for. It just, it just happened. What happened to him, he was sitting on his living room in the couch at his mother-in-law's house, I believe. And his mother-in-law and his wife were in the kitchen, and he was just sitting there looking out the window. And he had an out-of-body experience that he doesn't really know. He's no longer with us, but he didn't really know how long it lasted, but it didn't go on and on. But it was enough to totally disorient him internally. And for a few days, it was like when you get the punchline of the biggest joke you've ever heard, but then you can't explain it to anybody. And that's how all of us feel when we try to explain this to people at the beginning, because there are no words. But because he was forced, sort of, to put it into words so that he could share it, to me, there's the 3 undeniable facts, which are upstream of absolutely everything, are that there is a life force energy that is going through every living thing. So there is a life force energy that kind of goes through absolutely everything. And it's self-correcting. It's constantly self-correcting. You can see it in nature. Sadly, you can see it in nature easier than you can see it in people, but it's everywhere. And in the principles, we call that mind for some reason. And then there's this thing called thought, which is not the individual thoughts in our head, but it's more like the power of thought. And the power of thought is, I just think it is like the biggest art supply store you can imagine. It is all the raw materials that we have access to make up inventions, new ideas, interpretations. It's all the things in the candy store, all of the things in the candy store. And then there's this other thing, consciousness, which for sometimes is the hardest to explain, but it's simply awareness. It's our level of awareness of how involved am I in making stuff up. Well, if I go to the movie theater and I'm watching a movie and tears are streaming down my face, it's because for a moment I forgot that I'm in a stupid movie theater and there's just a screen up there and there's a bunch of people sitting next to me chewing with their mouth open. Like, I'm not aware of that because I'm in the movie. And consciousness to me is how close are you to the movie screen? You know, if I'm right up close to the movie screen, then I'm believing everything I'm thinking. I know that my take on it is absolutely accurate. And when I slide back to a further back row in the theater, I realize, wow, you know, what I just thought seemed really credible, but I'm aware that I'm the one that made that up. And mind comes back in and gives me this reset button where I don't have to untangle all of those thoughts that I just made up. And I don't have to untangle the childhood memory that I was just revisiting. It is to untangle it would be like alphabetizing smoke. Like, why would you do that? You can't do that. So it's like I'm living in this amazing Garden of Eden pinball game. And every once in a while, I'm aware that I'm participating fully in this full contact sport of life. But at any moment, I am one thought away from hitting the reset button and going, oh, wow, gee, it's a nice day. And I didn't know how to get out of my own way when I had professionals helping me to get deeper into my own way. And innocently, I have to say, you know, I thought of something this morning I haven't thought of in years, but I had diagnoses of chronic depression or clinical depression for years and years and years. And I dabbled with my own self-medications, of course, because that's what we do. And I was seeing a therapist once and, you know, struggling through, oh my God, you know, the pain of it all and get out my little violin. I mean, I had suffered so much in my life. Let me tell you, I had suffered. Didn't know a lot of it was at my own hand, but I had suffered. So for some reason, I had a really good week. I was seeing her weekly. I had a really good week, and I was really feeling like I was getting out of my own way. And I went back for my next session, and I was probably a little bit animated and bragging a little bit about, gosh, I had such a good week. I got this and this and this done, and I went for a hike and I took my sketchbook and I just, you know, I had a very successful week. And she's sitting there with her Buddha smile and nodding and all that. And at the end of the session, she said, well, Bobbie, that's good. So we're about out of time, but for next week, same time work for you? Oh yeah, same time. And she goes, so maybe next week you'll be ready to do some work.
What?
Yeah. And I left there and thought, oh my God, I'm not suffering enough. You know, I was in denial because I'd had a really good week. And I thought, boy, that is a hint. That I didn't blame her at all, but that was her job to figure out what's wrong because we have a mental illness practice. We don't have a mental health practice. So she didn't have anything to work with if I wasn't complaining about all the things that were wrong. And I thought, oh, golly. And that was probably 10 years. No, yeah, about 10 years before I came across the principles that basically said you have innate wellness. You have this reset button called mind that's always there fixing your cut fingers and helping you to sit up straight when you feel stiff and you realize you've been hunched over and you're perfectly well. You are at liberty to make up any story you would like to enjoy. And then you're also at liberty to wake up to the fact that you just made up a beautiful story, but it's just a story. And then you go back into the playground. I really think we're just here to have fun and enjoy each other's company. And sometimes that takes a lot of work, but yeah.
And then sometimes it doesn't.
I know. And, I don't have that much more time to live. I may only be here another few decades. So I don't have time to waste being heavy. I already did that. But the other cool thing is that I can, which this is a little bit recent, maybe the last 5 years, I can I can be with people who are suffering, and I can listen to them and believe that they are describing a movie that is so real for them that, I mean, I have no business tapping them on the shoulder and saying, you're making it all up. I have so much respect for people who want to get out of their own way and at this very moment can't. And that's perfectly okay, because in the next moment they might. And maybe all they need is somebody to listen and to have something on their face that implies that I really love you. I really like you. And I really believe in you. And then all of a sudden, things do start to clear. Instead of saying, oh, I'm worried about you, or you poor thing. I mean, we can't actually control other people's experience, but I do still believe we can influence it a little bit. And, if I tell somebody I believe in you and I don't know what the answer is, but keep talking because I love you, all of a sudden they're like, what was I complaining about? I can't remember. And we all take turns. The thing is, it doesn't matter how long you've understood the 3 principles. You're going to get your turn in the barrel, whatever.
Absolutely. And you know what? My turn in the barrel, what you just said there.
Mm-hmm.
And I had said, well, in the past, I had my depression. I'm done with that. It's not that I'm done with it. It's the shifting. It's this slight shifting in a different direction, seeing what depression is now compared to when I was caught up in the story. And like you said with the movie, my thought storms that I was having were real to me because they were right here. I can't see. So now like this,
Yeah.
and, it still shows up. And
Yeah.
one thing about these, having the honor and the privilege to speak with yourself and other people like you, that we're not saying that those thought storms are going away. In fact, we're saying that they are going to be there, but they're not what you think they are. It's like drawing a monster on a piece of paper, but knowing that I've just drew a monster on a piece of paper. It can have a beautiful life of its own. It can go on and have a wonderful TV series, but but it's still just imagination. It's still a beautiful imagination. It's a drawing, and it's a drawing.
Yeah. I find like the hook for me sometimes is physical pain. If I'm in physical pain, or my body is doing something that's preventing me from doing what I plan to do, I can get really, that's when I slide right up to the screen and I'm looking at it. But the difference for me now is there is this other part of me, sometimes very tiny, but there's always a part of me that goes, gosh, I'm not having fun at the moment. And it's me watching me not having fun at the moment. And that first me is just removed far enough that I'm not getting swallowed up by the pain. I'm 80% totally buying into the fact that this pain is forever. It's my fault. And I'm not going to die. I'm going to suffer first. And I'm buying that whole thing. And then a part of me goes, yeah, honey. And it sucks and it's temporary, and you go for it. You get in there and tell me how much you hate it. But now it's like, now I have a witness. I have this witness that adores me lock, stock, and barrel. And um and I'm safe, I'm safe no matter how bad it gets. I'm not 100% hopeless like I felt like I used to be. um and I don't know about your experience with depression, but I felt like when I was in the depths of depression, I was more in touch with truth than when I was having a good day. It was so convincing. The hopelessness of it was so convincing. And I had a things that come to you. I had a girlfriend ask me years ago, we were in church together, and she said, Bob, I need an opinion on something. You're a pretty upbeat person, right? And I said, oh, Cynthia, honey, when I'm not suicidal, I'm one of the most upbeat people you could ever talk to. And even then I realized, when I'm in it, I am in it. And when I'm not in it, it's good. But now there's a part of me that's always not really in it.
I think what's fascinating about that is that recently, when I say recently, I'm going to say maybe the past couple of years, I've really seen how the depression is such a beautiful awareness. Obviously, so many people that will never experience depression, but for those that do, there is a connection. There's something that's happening that may be on a level that we're not aware of, like almost, and I'm just going to throw this out, I'm making this stuff up like we always do. It almost seems ancient. There's something that's trying to communicate. There's a level of depth and compassion, and it's trying to communicate with us. And it somehow, it's, again, I'm losing my train of thought here because it's beyond my pay grade, but it's one of those things where there's a level of, I used to call it darkness. And the strange thing about that is that when scientists go up into space and they look at the darkness and they can't see anything in the dark matter, and they'll call it dark matter. It wasn't until today, when our technology caught up to trying to find out what was in the darkness. Now they say that there's an enormous amount of energy in that darkness. There's so much energy and life within the darkness, and they can put darkness in a vacuum space where there's no light and suck all the air out, and they can analyze that space, and they find it's filled with energy. And it's so amazing that for us, with our limited language, trying to express what the darkness is, and then not really realizing the potential there, the potential that we're going through a cycle. We go into that dark place, whatever that is, where our minds are they're sped up, they're caught up. There's 1,000 thoughts per second, and none of them seem like they're good thoughts. And it just may be a sign that just says, hey, you know what? You're really caught up right now, but there's something underlying this hurricane that you're in that is going to say, you know what? The hurricane is going to pass, just like a real hurricane. It's going to pass. It may leave some destruction, but it will pass. And when it passes, there's a moment of clarity and wisdom that you may experience. And we hope you do. Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense. And what I'm thinking of as you're speaking is how we are drawn, we being maybe just you and me, but I think it's most people, we're drawn to things that don't make sense to us. Like, for example, I really love minor key music. I love Beethoven's Pathetique second movement. It is so, to me, it sounds like if you could take the word courage and put it to music, but it's courage that is so tired at the moment, so tired, but you're putting one foot in front of the other. And then you think of some of the best moving scenes in films that you've ever seen, and a rainy street at night with one street lamp, and there's a hopeless person just putting one foot in front of the other down the street. I love the grit and the texture and the crunchiness of watercolors that are dark and gritty and have spots of light in them, but everything's soft and pastel and sweet, and my insulin levels go up just thinking about that. I can't go there. So I have a real appreciation for depression, because all it is the flip side of exaltation, and it means that your nerve endings are all working. They're all working. And depression just means that you're, except for the kind which Bill Pettit talks about, where if there is a physical difference in your brain, i.e. from traumatic brain injury or something, that we're talking about a whole different thing when there's a structural difference.
Right.
But the kinds of mood swings that regular people have because of their brain chemistry that's triggered by thought, it's a chicken and egg situation. You can't get to the beginning because the beginning was before you were born. But, I'm anxious because I'm thinking anxious thoughts, but I think anxious thoughts because I'm feeling anxious. And it's like, oh, kiddos, you are your own pharmacy. Once you really understand that, people that can feel the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat are, we get tired more easily than some people, but I don't want to have a roller coaster that looks like I'm flatlining. I don't. So when people try to use the 3 principles to have a more stable life, I get it, but I don't want mine to be totally stable, because then why bother being here?
I love that. I really do. That's amazing. There is something really exciting about not knowing what's next.
Yeah, exactly. So we've reached a little peaceful spot, haven't we?
I love when that happens.
Yeah.
There's something really beautiful about those peaceful spots. I mean, obviously you've experienced them too. And when we're on podcasts like this, or at retreats or anything like that, where there's things that are supposedly that we need to get done, we have to explain this understanding over and over and over again until it's, until we're all blue in the face. But what happens naturally are these peaceful spots. And I love it when it happens in a big group, like maybe 20 people, where all everything just goes quiet. And it's so much fun, because it's like, it's strange because everyone goes quiet. Like there's a quiet, like when you went quiet, then I went quiet. It's not like I'm following you. It's just, there was an energy that just settled down for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden there's just this flowing, beautiful stream out in the middle of the country. It's on a sunny Missouri afternoon, and and everything is really calm, and there's absolutely nothing. There's nothing there. It's just calmness, and there's no suffering. There's no starvation. There's no wars. There's no disease. There's no famine. There's no virus. It's just
thought.
All of a sudden it goes peaceful like that, and I think that's really, really important for people who we're talking to understand that. Yes, there's a roller coaster, and we love the roller coasters. There's also this really amazing calmness that's always available to us in any given moment. And that's really powerful, any given moment.
So, Dave, do you find that picking up your sketchbook and either a pen or a pencil is almost a shortcut to that quiet moment, or it can be.
Yes, it can be for sure. There's a natural feeling like there's a blank piece of paper and a pen, and I don't know what's going to happen. And then after the time passes, which I usually lose the time, and I love that. I love where, I mean, we are surrounded. You have a watch on. I'm on a computer. We have a cell phone. You know, when someone says what time it is, and you go, I don't know. It's almost ridiculous. It's like, what do you mean you don't know? And it's like, but when I'm doing art, or not just art, but definitely when I am sketching, and there's a moment where you can feel that awareness of I have no idea about anything, especially the time. I mean,
Mhm.
and that's such a beautiful feeling. It really is. And that's why your book is so powerful, and it's so important, because you're telling anyone. It doesn't matter if they have an art background. That's not the point. That's not the point. The point is you're offering a moment of just letting things go, or I should say it differently, letting things show up. If you have 1,000 thoughts, if you have 1,000 thoughts and they're all about work, well, fine. You can still sketch. And,
Yeah.
and the magic is what happens in those moments of sketching.
Right, exactly. I think of it as this strange binary of it's an escape hatch, but it's also a doorway. And I sketch from observation. I mean, I've done some work from imagination, and that's fine. But if I want a guaranteed get out of my head quickly, um, I sketch from observation, and it does start with just staring at something and going, "Wow, look at that! Oh my gosh, there's a shadow there. I didn't even see it first." And the thing is, for me, it gives your cognitive brain something to chew on, because we can't not think. I mean, this thing has to do something. So you toss it a bone, you give it something to chew on, like, oh my God, look at that angle. That is so weird. But then the chatter that is full of judgment and analysis and fabrication doesn't have to do that, because you've given the kid a toy to play with, right? So that you can go off and just have this quiet time, because the kid was driving you crazy. And that's what this thing does, right? So, it is interesting that I feel, especially in this community, I feel that my book has so much more to do with mental wellness than art, but I use paper and pencil because those just happen to be the tools. But, offering people a way to get out of their own way, what more could you possibly want to do for the world? And everybody has a different porthole. Like, I'm not really interested in becoming a coach, but I wouldn't mind going sketching with you. That would be fun.
Oh, that'd be fun.
And it ends up with coachy kind of conversations. But there's a level playing field when it's human to human, rather than seemingly cured professional and poor client. No, 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 no. We're all in the same boat. We're all in the same boat. I'm just on the front of the boat, so I'm that much farther down the stream than you are. That's all.
And what I love about look at that, you can say look at that when it's a blank piece of paper, and then you can look at it a half an hour later. The surprise is so important, not important, but so breathtaking. It's an awareness. That's what look at this is, an awareness.
It's like Mara Gleason's book, One Thought Away. When I got the title for this book, which just came to me, I thought of, just picture an office full of cubicles with everybody busy, everybody working like crazy, and anybody, and they're all like really on deadline about everything. All it takes is one person to go, look at that. Instantly, everybody is one thought away from where they just were. So this is almost like a call to arms of, come back to reality right here. Something's happening. And maybe what's happening is a beautiful life that you've been overlooking because you're busy thinking of other stuff.
Wow, that's good. I like that. A beautiful life is happening right now.
Yeah, except you're busy thinking.
You're busy.
One of the videos that I made prior to doing these podcasts, which again, attempting to share in this understanding, I talked about there was a moment last year where I was driving home. So I was preoccupied. My mind is really concentrating on the driving. It's at night and I'm listening to music, but a thought showed up, and that's what thoughts do. You said that in the very beginning. Thoughts show up, and they're so wise. It's incredible. Like, where did that come from? It's like just beautiful things moving through us. And this thought appeared that said, "Hey, when you get home, I want you to create something." And it gave me instructions on how to cut out magazine strips. And I was like, okay, got home. My sister was in town. And then we started doing art projects together. So I followed whatever I heard show up for me. And then after it was finished,
Look at that.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I can't even imagine me doing that.
No.
It-
Where'd that come from?
Where
Beats
did
the
it
heck
come
out
from?
of me.
It still blows me away. It's one of my favorite
Mm.
pieces because I know for a fact I didn't have anything to do with it, even though I was the one cutting everything out and pasting it and everything, that what flowed through
Yeah.
had a life of its own.
Yeah. And, when you say that to some people, it sounds disingenuous, like I'm just a channeler. It just came to me. But the truth is that is how it works. That's how all the best stuff comes. It's that I could have had a V8 moment, right? And we've all had them, but I know exactly what you're saying, that, and it's, when you hesitate to take credit for something that just came to you, that's actually really sincere. It's not false humility or anything. It's just like, I don't know where that came from. And that's the cool part about it. Like, I don't have to own it. I just carried it from this side of the room to this side of the room.
Edit this part.
I can't explain it. Good.
The incredible thing about this conversation is that these are like one of 12 podcasts, and each one is like that. It's just like, we're just hinting. We're hinting at something that's so powerful, and it has changed our lives tremendously. I wish that for every counselor I've been to since the age of 18, I wish that I could share this with them, because I feel like they're on the front lines.
Yeah.
People have to go through, if they're through a business, they have to go through the HR or whatever. They have to go through the insurance, insurance companies. They're going to get some people that, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying that from your one example of that person saying, hey, when you're ready to talk about your problem, we'll go back to work. We're so far from that. We're coming in fresh. We're coming in hot. And we're saying, hey, guess what? There's nothing wrong with you. Let's just start off with that. That's the first sentence I would ever say to another person. It's like, before you even start, which is fine where you start from, I just want you to know that I don't see anything wrong with you at all.
And one thing I have done with one friend who's particularly deep in my heart is I just tell her, well, what if? Like, seriously, just picture the scene in The Wizard of Oz before the curtain got pulled back. What if Sigmund Freud was wrong? What if Carl Jung was wrong? What if they innocently were saying what looked like it made sense to them at the time? What if you never even heard the expression clinical depression? What if you were just moody? Would that be easier to deal with? Well, yeah, it might be. And so anyway, I use the what if as kind of we're just going to pretend that we've been sold a bill of goods and see if we can see what it might feel like to be free of all that. And you can still pick up those beliefs when we're finished with coffee. But in the meantime, what if all those professionals didn't have a clue what they were talking about, and your own common sense is just sitting here patiently waiting to
You want to listen to me now?
You know, and I just watched a Michael Neal video on another way to think about, and he has all these different things. And I listened to the one, another way to think about weight loss. And again, he's so crystal clear, but he said, you know, we not only have this innate wellness and innate wisdom, we have innate common sense that if you just shut up and listen for a minute, you know, it's that simple. It's just that simple. But to stop, I think we all have chatter, but in the years that I've been alive, you know, psychology, psychotherapy wasn't in our way so much 100 years ago as it is now, wasn't infecting our thinking as much as it does now. And God knows, since TV was bad enough, but then when the internet was, I mean, I was alive, an adult, long before the internet existed. And it was, you didn't have so many things you had to try to ignore, so many things that were getting on top of your common sense. Like one of the examples about the three principles I heard years and years ago was that mind is the wooden flute that's playing in your heart forever and ever and ever, and thought is the brass band. And you're never going to hear the wooden flute, even though it's playing all the time, because the thought is just it's just, look at me so much. And I do feel like, yeah, you know, I can make myself crazy without any help. But the truth is, there really is an awful lot of help being offered, help to becoming crazier, because of social media, regular media, strong opinions. You know, I think it's borderline illegal to say, I don't know nowadays. Like, you're supposed to have an opinion on everything. And it's at least countercultural to say, I don't know. And even more so to say, I don't care. You know? That's almost swearing, isn't it? To find a peaceful place and then to tend to what needs to be tended to right in front of you. And it's not denial. You know, I'm educating myself about the interconnectedness of environmental and political and medical and spiritual and all these different rabbit holes that seem to be coming to a critical mass in the world right now. But what I've seen instead is that there's a connective tissue between them. And the connective tissue is really the missing link, not to steal Sid's words, but the missing link is the connective tissue, that there's a common denominator. And, you know, humbly, I feel like if you could just stop for a minute and see, we are all in this together, and everybody needs to take a deep breath, because you're believing too much of your own thinking, and it's hurting you first. Then it hurts other people, but it hurts you first. And I'm thinking about people that I have some issues with, but they deserve a look at that moment just as much as anybody, you know, because with a sense of peace, even if it's for only a moment, you have access to a wisdom that is the wooden flute. It's there and it's patient, but you can't imagine how delightful it is if you haven't heard it since you were a little kid. So, yeah.
That's huge. That's huge. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's
the greatest call to action is to slow down. Just slow down. You'll get a lot more done if you just slow down. Yeah.
Yeah. Bobbie, thank you so much for being here. This has been absolutely stunning, amazing. I know you and I could talk for hours and hours and hours about art and the three principles and this understanding that we're trying to share with people in order just to have them see how wonderful and beautiful they are innately, how the grace and love that they have without seeking outside of themselves. They have everything that they need within themselves.
The website is is a pun. The website's name is A Loft with Inspiration, and it's because I live in a loft. And my last name is Herron, so I'm a bird who's a loft. So I love playing with words. So A Loft with Inspiration, and I think the tagline is where love of words and watercolors soar together. And I do love writing. I love sharing what's in my heart with people who might say, "Oh yeah, me too, me too." The book is certainly available on Amazon and in other places. And on Facebook, I have the Look at That Sketchbook Adventure Club. So anybody who wants to come on and post their work there, it's all, it's based on that non-self-deprecating, just share your stuff and have a good time. And, if you apologize, I'll have to come to your house and feed you chocolate, because no apologies are allowed. So, yeah. But my website's probably the best place if you want to contact me, because I respond to everything, of course.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you for writing this amazing book.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for your inspiration, and thank you for your service to others.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dave. It's been a pleasure.
You are amazing.
Love it.
Human being. Thank you so much for being here.
So much fun, Dave. Thank you.
All right. And I'm calling you my friend from now on.
You got it, buddy.
Okay. We'll talk to you very soon.
Okay. Excellent.
And thank you for your time.
Okay. We'll see you, Dave. Bye.
Look at that.
I did that?
It's so beautiful. It's so amazing. There's so many different directions this thing goes in.
My radiator's going.
Bang, bang, bang.
It was fun. It was definitely fun. It was just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't explain it.
I can't explain it.
That was like that was a perfect ending right there, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
you have a real gift. There's no doubt about it. And I like the idea of the word gift, because again, it's like there's some drawings in those sketchbooks that I can look at now and go,
Look at that.
I did that?
I know it. I swear, it's like making soup. When you close your sketchbook, it starts to marinate.
yeah.
And then you open it even a day later, and it's like,
Whoa, that's much better now.
Because as soon as you're finished, the thoughts come in. Same with these podcasts. As soon as we're finished, the thoughts come in.
Did I say the right thing? It's like, who cares?
full circle.
Full circle.
I'll pull myself back together again.
Oh, you just throw some text in a picture and then you're done.
You just described my website.
For this one, it's going to say, look at that.
And those seem to be the things that get attention.
It's unbelievable what
I know.
the information we hold in our hands.
Billions per day.
It's a bizarre feeling too.
I hear you. I so hear you.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Because obviously more money means you're happier, right?
Right.
Right.
I wasn't happy at all in this podcast.
Awesome. It's been an honor to meet you, truly.
Did I say the right thing? It's like, who cares?
Oh no.
But
I
no,
missed that.
Yeah.
I'm calling you my friend from now on.
You got it, buddy.